How's everybody doing? Good. Well, I am so happy to be in here with you guys, and I just want to thank Mr. Weiss for letting me come in. Forgive me because it takes me a couple minutes to get things situated. So, I know that you guys have been talking a lot about space, the moon, astronomy, and so today in our reading and our listening and learning, we've got a few important vocabulary words, and I've brought up some of the words so that you can kind of see what the word means. And the first word is astronaut. Say astronaut. Astronaut. So look at my picture, Michael. So an astronaut is a person trained by a human spaceflight program to command, pilot, or serve as a crew member of a spacecraft. So what you notice here is he doesn't look like he's dressed like us, right? And we're going to read about that today. He's got this big old suit, this big old helmet on, and he has been trained to do his job of going into space. So that's our first vocabulary word. What was that word, everybody? Astronaut. Astronaut. There. Not down this week. The second word is launch. Can you say the word launch? Launch. Say it one more time for me. Launch. So launch means to set in motion by pushing or allowing it to move. And I know sometimes in PE you may have done something where you launch up in the air. That's pretty much what the word launch means. It starts to move. Say that word one more time. Launch. Wonderful. The last most important word is technology. Can you say that word? Technology. Say it one more time. Technology. Technology is a branch of science, and it's a branch of knowledge that talks about engineering and applied sciences. Now that's a lot of big words. But what you see in my picture here is you see a GPS, which a lot of mommies and daddies have in their cars to help us know where to go. You see a computer. You see a cell phone. All of those things are technology. There's a lot of technology that hasn't even been made yet. They're always making those Apple phones and those iPhones and all kinds of stuff. So those are our key vocabulary words that we're going to read about, or we're going to hear in our reading today. So look at your paper. Look at your paper. I want you to put your finger on that first word, describe. This is the question that we're going to focus on today. So with that question, oh goodness, she probably wants to get some, because I see one person doesn't have one. So the first word is describe. And when we describe something, we tell a lot about it. We don't just say, oh, she had brown hair. We say that she had brown hair, she had on pants, she was walking. That's a description. We're telling a lot of stuff, okay? So put your finger on the first word, describe. I'm going to read it, and I want you to follow along with me. It says, describe, tell about, the connection between the United States and the Soviet Union in respects to the space race. Miss Sweden, can you make me one copy? Sure, I need one more. So what we're going to look for today, boys and girls, is we're going to want to be able to describe the connection, how they were connected between the United States and between the Soviet Union in respects to space. Okay? That sounds like a lot, doesn't it? Thumbs up. You think we can do that? And we're going to have to listen very carefully in order to do that. All right, so let's look at our first picture. The listening ears on. Ever since they first blazed upon the stars, people have always wondered if it was possible and what it would be like to travel into outer space. For most of human history, the idea of traveling into space was considered to be impossible. Impossible means that they didn't think it was going to happen. Space, most people thought, was out of reach, and there was no way humans would ever be able to get there. Still, this did not keep people from using their imaginations to come up with creative ideas for space travel. So they use their imaginations to think of ways to travel to space. Now, we're supposed to be looking for stuff about the United States and the Soviet Union. Did we hear anything in that said United States or Soviet Union? No, it didn't. So I don't think there's really anything worth putting down on our paper for that one because it's not too important. Can you quit? Yes, thank you. The Chinese invented the first rockets hundreds of years ago using gunpowder, the same type of explosive used to launch guns and cannons. Lighting the gunpowder would launch the rocket into the air. It was not until about 100 years ago that scientists started to make serious advances in rocket technology. So let's think about that. Let me read that again, because that's a lot of big words. It was not until about 100 years ago that scientists started to make serious advances in rocket technology. So it was only about 100 years ago that those smart scientists came up with ways to make rockets. Like, they haven't been around forever. It was about 100 years ago. Now, what I did not hear in what I just read, did you hear United States?
No.
Did you hear Soviet Union?
No.
So that's nothing that has to do with our focus question, right? Because remember, we're listening to be able to describe the connection between the United States and between the Soviet Union. So, Mr. Weeks, can you give us a clue?
Sure can.
Oh, look at that. What's that? What is that? What is that thing? You know? What's this thing where it's got a lot of news on it? What is it, Michael?
Astronaut?
Well, he's an astronaut, but what is this big thing? What is it? A newspaper. I'm glad you knew that, because a lot of people nowadays, they read their newspaper on their computer, right? When I was a kid, and Ms. Louise was a kid, Ms. Weeks and Mr. Trubisky were kids, they brought your newspaper to your house, and they threw it at your door. And then you got up in the morning and you read your newspaper. So let's see what they say about the newspaper. By the 1950s, rocket technology, so there's our, oh, we don't have a rocket, we don't have a rocket. By the 1950s, rocket technology had improved to the point that people began to think seriously about space travel and exploration. Back then, there was a nation called the Soviet Union. Okay, back then, there was a nation called the Soviet Union, which no longer exists today, but which consisted of Russia and other countries near Russia. At the time, the United States was the, United States.
Yes.
So they're getting ready to get into some important stuff, right? The United States was the only other nation in the world as large or as strong as the Soviet Union. So we've got the Soviet Union, the United States, two big, strong countries. The leaders of the Soviet Union and the United States each wanted to show the world that theirs was the more powerful country by being the first to launch a rocket into outer space. Oh, look at that rocket. This photo shows scientists in the United States launching the first rocket from Cape Canaveral, Florida, in 1950. This was just a test to see whether this type of rocket engine worked. This was the first of hundreds of rockets to be launched from Cape Canaveral. Now, Cape Canaveral is in the United States. So what I think I just heard me say is that the United States launched its first rocket from Cape Canaveral. So I heard United States. We know that rockets are what's going to go up into space. Do you think that's kind of important?
Yeah.
I think it's kind of important. Pick your pencil up. Pick your pencil up. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Can you get the lights, Mr. Williams? So, we just said that there was a rocket that was launched at Cape Canaveral. You guys like to draw? So we're going to do a quick drawing. We're not going to do a drawing. We're going to do just a sketch. You need something, Easton? Your pencil will sharpen. Oh, So we're going to do a quick little sketch, which means I draw it real quickly. We're not in art class, we're in a reading class. So let's do a quick little sketch, and I think the important part here, to help me remember what happened, is to draw a rocket. So let's pick up your pencil, let's draw a rocket. Here's my rocket. Here's where the fire comes out. Here's all the smoke. Up here's the sun, because I want to remember that they were sending them up in space. And I want to ask, let me see, Miss Coleman, what do you think about my rocket? You like my rocket? All right, so put your rocket on there, because that was one of the very first things that happened. Now the question here, Michael Washout, because I like saying your name. The question here is, when we were reading, who sent the first rocket? Was it the Soviet Union or the United States? Everybody. Oh, we got some people who heard the Soviet Union, some who heard the United States. It was actually the United States. So, since we can't remember all of this, let's go ahead and write right here. Let's write United States. Because that's an important detail for me to remember. I need to remember who sent that first rocket up into the sky. The United States. Great job, Kaylee. Great job, Cora. So if somebody asked you, well, what was the first thing that happened in the space race? I can look at my drawing and I can say, well, the United States sent a rocket up into the air. That's the very first thing that happened. Now remember, we're not talking about a bunch of other countries. We're only talking about the United States and the Soviet Union, also known as Russia. All right, so we got our first thing. You guys are doing great. All right, Mr. Lisa, you'll give us a clip. Look at that. Whoa. The Soviet Union, what did y'all hear? Okay, so we need to listen because this is important. Hold on, we need to listen, this is important. The Soviet Union succeeded in putting the first man-made object into orbit on October the 4th, 1957 by launching a satellite called Sputnik. What is this? And what was the name of the satellite? Sputnik. A satellite is an object that moves in a constant orbit. Orbit means it goes around. Goes in a constant orbit around an object in space. And y'all know why Dr. Richmond liked that? Because Dr. Richmond liked satellite TV. And this is what satellite TV, this is how it started. Okay? Sputnik 1, that's the name of it, was carried into space aboard a rocket, and then it was released. What does released mean? What's released mean, anybody? It was let go. So he was brought in a rocket, and then he was let go. It orbited the Earth, so it went around, it orbited the Earth for several months before re-entering the atmosphere and burning up. So it just came back down, and then it just went, whew, and it burned up. After the success of Sputnik 1, the space race between the United States and the Soviet Union had begun. Each country wanted to prove that it had a better space program than the other countries. So the Soviet Union looked at the United States and said, I've got a better space race than you. And the Soviet Union looked at the United States looked at the Soviet Union and said, I've got a better space race than you. And that means they kept trying to get better than the other one. For several years, the Soviet Union continued to lead in the space race. The leaders and the people of each country took the space race very seriously. It was not a game, but it was a true matter of national pride. So I think what we need to do is we need to go back to our organizer, and we need to put the second thing that happened in the space race. Because remember, first, the United States sent up its rocket. The next thing was what? Who can raise their hand and tell me? What was the next thing that happened in the space race? Oh, I forgot, there's two columns. What was the next thing that happened? Who's going to help her out? What's the next thing that we just read that happened? The next thing. The Soviet Union did what, Ms. Coleman? They released the first satellite. So I'm going to come over here. You know what? I'm going to draw a picture of my satellite. And remember, I'm just doing a quick draw. It's a round, kind of funny looking thing. It's got all of these legs on it. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna draw me an arrow right here. And I'm gonna draw me an arrow right here. Because I wanna remember that when they put that big old satellite up in the atmosphere, in the air, all it's doing is going around and around and around. Can you say that? Around and around and around. And that means that it's orbiting. Now, important part is, who put the satellite up there? Everybody. Soviet Union. So they came back, the United States said, we're gonna go to space. Soviet Union said, y'all can go. But I'm gonna tell you what, we're gonna do something better. So if I was really predicting what happened right now, predicting, making that guess, I would think that next, the United States is gonna say, ho, ho, ho. They put a satellite up there, so now we gotta do something.
The United States is not the United States is not
The what? It isn't Santa. Where's Santa from? Do you know? He's from the North Pole. I don't have to go to that country one day. Okay. So we got our first two things that happened. Let's switch back. I think I'm getting good at this.
Yeah.
All right. Now, is that a satellite or a rocket?
Rocket.
So the United States developed a space program called the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. Woo! It's a big word. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or for short, they call it NASA. Can you say NASA? NASA. That's a whole lot easier than saying all the rest of it, right? The scientists at NASA hurried to try to catch up to the progress the Soviets made. A few months after the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 1, NASA scientists in the United States launched a satellite of their own called Explorer 1. Wait, hold on. I'm gonna reread that again because I think I just heard something important. A few months after the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 1, NASA scientists in the United States launched a satellite of their own, Explorer 1. And that's a picture of Explorer 1. Do you think that's important enough to put in our organizer?
Yeah.
I think it is too. So let's switch back. Let's get a good picture of it. Let's get a good mental picture of it real quick. All right, somebody help me out. What did we say the United States did? Raise your hand. What did we say the United States did? Who have I not heard from today? I got 4 hands. Let me see. I have 5. I got 5. I got 6 hands. Oh, I got a 7th hand. Max, what did we say just happened? The United States came back and what? Launched a, not Was it a satellite or was it a rocket? Hold on, let me make sure. I gotta go back to my text. It was a what? It was a rocket. Wonderful. So they came back. Let's go to our other box over here. I'm gonna try and make this one a little bit better looking because as they did it, they always made them better and better. Love the way I see people working out there. So the United States came back and made another rocket. I tell you what I'm going to put over here. I'm going to put a little person. And the reason I'm putting a person is because not only did the United States make a rocket, but the United States made a group of scientists and called them what? Does anybody remember what they called that group? Starts with an N. Oh, you're trying to give me the big words. NASA. What was it called? NASA. That was the group of scientists that are going to do all of the space exploration. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to write United States and I'm going to put a little line, a little bent line, it's called a slash, and I'm going to write NASA. Alright, so while you're finishing up, I'm going to review real quick. So we started at the beginning of the space race with the United States, and they made a rocket. They said, we're going to go up in the sky, we're going to go to the moon. Next, the Soviet Union, they came and said, well, we're going to go too, but we're going to make a satellite. Because we're talking about the space race. We're not talking about people, we're not talking about their animals, we're talking about the space race. Space race. So after they made their satellite, the United States said, we're going to make an even better rocket, and we're going to make this organization, this group of people called NASA, and they're going to study the space, and they're going to be astronauts and all of that crazy stuff. I love how you guys are staying with me. I would almost think that we're in second grade. Alright, let's head on back over. Ooh, look at him. What do you notice in this picture? Raise your hand. What do you notice in this picture? What do you notice? Out loud.
He's launching off into space.
You think he's launching off into space? Easton, what do you notice? Give me something. What do you notice? Let's let Michael help you out. Michael, what do you notice?
He's an astronaut.
He's an astronaut. Can you see that big old suit and everything? Let's see. Let's make sure that what we think is right. So this guy, his name is Yuri Gagarin. So we're just going to call him Yuri for short. The space race continued at a heated pace in 1961 when the Soviet Yuri became the first person to go into space and return safely. So that's a big deal, that you're able to go all the way into space and come back safely. Yuri was taken on the way to the launch pad for his historic journey. So this is what he looked like when he was getting ready to get launched in space. You can bet that he was feeling very nervous at this point. Why do you think he was feeling nervous? Why would they say that he felt nervous? So
Because he's going out into space and he doesn't know if he'll survive.
wonderful. He's going to launch into space and he doesn't know if he'll survive. What do you got to say? Go ahead. Talk loud. And why would he need a microphone?
So he can talk to people and see and tell them to send things up for him.
So he can talk to the people back on Earth, right? Let's take one more.
He's nervous because he thinks he might come back with a problem.
He could come back with a problem, right? If he makes it back. So I think the next thing we're going to do, and I want somebody to tell me because I don't want to tell you. So we had that guy, Yuri, and he was an astronaut from the Soviet Union. So what do you think we should put in our next box? What should we draw here to remind us what just happened? What should we put in that box? Thomas, what should we put in our next box? What did we just read about? We just read about a what? An astronaut. What was his name? Anybody remember that? What we said we were going to call him? Yuri. Yuri. We said we were going to call him Yuri. So let's put an astronaut. So I've got my big old helmet there. I've got him in a suit. I'm going to write right here to remind myself, because we haven't talked about this one yet, but it was one of our vocabulary words, that he was an astronaut. An astronaut. Make that a little bit bigger so you can see it. Now here's the thing that's going to tell me who was listening. He was an astronaut, but who had the first astronaut? Was it the Soviet Union or was it the United States? Raise your hand if you think it's United States. Raise your hand if you think it's the Soviet Union. The people who have their hand raised right now, like Jose, you're right, it's the Soviet Union. Alright, so just like we did last time, as you're finishing up that box, yes, Easton? How's that? That's good. Alright, so while you're finishing up, I'm going to review, because this is what I'm doing in my mind. I'm thinking. And in my mind, I'm thinking about this space race. And in this space race, I have a very first thing that happened in the space race. Had that rocket. Next thing that happened, those Soviets said, nah, we're going to have us a satellite. Third thing that happened, the United States said, we're going to have us, NASA, make this big group, kind of like a school that would do nothing but study space. And then next, we had an astronaut from the Soviet Union. Yes, sir. You've been doing some reading. He said everything floats in space, and he is right, because there's no gravity up there. So I think we're about to finish up our reading. Let's see what our next thing is. Space travelers like Alan Shepard are called astronauts. The word astronaut comes from two Greek words, astro meaning star, and naut meaning sailor. So an astronaut is a star sailor, just meaning that they sail around up above the stars. Although being an astronaut can certainly be one of the most interesting jobs in the world, It is by no means an easy job. Astronauts spend years in training to prepare for journeys into outer space. Astronauts must be healthy, and they must be strong because space travel can be very difficult. Astronauts are stuffed into tiny spaces and launched into space in a rocket powered by thousands of gallons of powerful fuel. It's scary and it's uncomfortable, but astronauts, they put up with it. So, yes, sir, Michael.
I think that all states gonna win because there's only one more spot, and the one that's not all states is hot in the lead.
Got you, but we're gonna keep on because we're on important stuff. Mr. Weeks, that's our last slide, isn't it?
I think so, I'll take it. Nope, one more.
No, we got one more? Oh, well, that's got something to read. Anyhow. Okay, so, all right, boys and girls, we're gonna go back to our box. We're gonna go to our last box where we talked about an astronaut being a sailor around the stars. So I'm gonna go up here and I'm gonna put me some stars. I'm gonna put my person again, my astronaut. And I just saw a couple of astronauts, so I'll make sure he's in that big suit. And from our reading today, when we think about the space race, the two main countries were who? Anybody? Go ahead. Who were the two main countries in this race? The United States and the Soviet Union. So as we finish up today, I'd say it's probably safe to say that two of the countries who are probably still big in the space race today are the United States and the Soviet Union. So we're getting ready to turn away from our pictures. So real quick, Michael Washout, because I like saying your name, I'm going to review real quick, because we got to describe it. That means we got to tell about it. So we started with that rocket in the United States. We went to our satellite from the Soviet Union. United States said, we're coming back. We're going to do something better. We decided to do NASA. Then the Soviet Union sent their first astronaut into space. And that's where we're going to stop today, because we don't want to talk about too much. Now, does your question have something to do with what we're doing? You can't see the words. Well, it sure does, then, doesn't it? Here, let me make them, pull them up, and let me make them a little bit darker. All right, if you are done, I want you to flip over to the back. Flip over to the back of your paper. Good? Alright, I want you to put your finger on the word describe. Put your finger right here. Now the first time that I read this to you, lay it down, give me a second. First time that I read this to you, I read it to you. This time I want you to read it with me. So put your finger on the word describe, and I'm going to read it, and then I want you to repeat after me, okay? Who reads first? Who does? What do? You read after me, okay? Describe, tell about the connection between the United States and the Soviet Union with respect to the space race. So let's take those big words and let's put it in first grade words. And in first grade words, we want to talk about what happened with the United States and the Soviet Union in the space race. So let's start out. That first thing that happened in the United States was what? They sent up anybody remember? They sent up a rocket. So let's start our sentence out. And I tell you what, instead of writing United States every time, we're just going to abbreviate it. We're going to make it shorter. And we're going to say in the U.S. Okay? That's what we're going to do right there. So we're going to say in the U.S. they, you know what? I don't want to say sent. There was a vocabulary word that we had earlier that talked about letting it go. Remember what that vocabulary word was? What was it, Caroline? Launched. Let's use that word. That sounds better. It makes us sound smart. So in the U.S., they launched what did they launch? My dog? What did they launch? A dog. They launched a rocket.
I bet you don't even have a dog.
I do have a dog. All right, we're not talking about dogs though. We launched a rocket. What did I put at the end of my sentence? Period. All right, because I'm describing. I'm telling what happened in this big old space race thing here. And the first thing that happened is in the U.S., they launched a rocket. Remember, U.S., Michael, is short for what? United States. Super job, Michael. Oh, I need to look back at my thinking real quick, okay? So you look at me. Let me turn it back over here. Okay, let me remind myself. The next thing in the space race, the Soviet Union did what? Sent a satellite. Okay, that's the next thing. So, I'm going to say next. And instead of writing Soviet Union every time, I'm going to call that one SU. Okay? That stands for Soviet Union. And US stands for United. Michael Washout told us states. Alright, so next, the Soviet Union sent what was it called? A what?
Rocket.
Not a rocket. Satellite. TT. Satellite. TT.
No, 1, 2.
1, 2.
2 L's.
Sent a satellite into, now we know that they sent it into space, but who can remember that word that I said means that it's up there going around and around and around and around and around? Remember that word? It's going around and around.
The orbit.
Oh gosh, you are awesome. Sent a satellite into orbit. I think I'm gonna put a question mark. Y'all agree?
Yeah.
Yes? Did I ask a question? No, so I shouldn't put a question mark. What should I put? Here. Yes, Michael Washout. Hold on, Michael Washout. Do you have the sentence? Do you have the next sentence we wrote? Oh, well then you put that and then I'll talk to you, okay?
Take a second. Make your paper look like Dr. Richmond's. This is a time for you to really take
sure you got two great sentences. I noticed some capital letters in his sentences and some periods in his sentences. I can't wait to see what you put on yours to make yours match.
Miss Raventy, I don't know what you were saying. I'm seeing some great things over here.
Well, hallelujah.
Let me get out the way. So if you are done with that one, flip over on yours if you're done and see if you can figure out what was the next thing that happened and how you're going to tell us what was the next thing that happened. I see two people who already have thought of it. Flip back over. I'm going to flip over now real quick. Okay, I see it. So in the U.S. they launched, oops, I spelled it wrong. They launched, sorry about that, boys and girls. See where I'm supposed to have ED right there? That was Dr. Richard's fault. They launched a rocket. Next, the Soviet Union sent a satellite into orbit. Somebody's going to tell me the next thing that happened. Get it in your mind. So in the U.S., they launched a rocket. Next, the Soviet Union sent a satellite into orbit. I would probably say that then the U.S., now somebody finish my sentence. Then the U.S. did what?
Look at that third picture. Think back to what you heard Dr. Richmond read.
And pencils down, pencils down, pencils down. All right, somebody's gonna finish my sentence. So it says, then the United States what? Finish my sentence. Then the United States what? Then the United States what? Help me out, Ayla. Then the United States. Then the United States. I got a friend way over here that I think is going to help you out with that one. Frankie, then the United States. She says they sent a guy into space. Hold on, let me look, because I'm on my third box. Oh, they sent a guy into space. That could be one thing. Then the United States, what? They sent a rocket with a guy into space. Into space. I could say it like that. What else could I say? Go ahead, Sadie. Okay, so you talk about the satellite, the rocket, the person. Let's put all of that together. And let's say then the United States sent a rocket with, and now I don't want to just say a man. I want to use that vocabulary word.
Did they send a man into space or did they make NASA? Because, right, they didn't really, I think I heard
Let's see.
They didn't really want to send that man into space yet because they weren't sure.
Well, oh my goodness, it's always great to have somebody to check me. Now we're on, we have point number 3. No, they did send a man.
I believe you.
Yeah, they sent Alan Shepard
To orbit.
into orbit, and they made NASA. So they did, yes. So they sent a rocket. Now, Ms. Raventy got my mind off. I don't want to say they sent a man. They sent, what was he? An astronaut. I want to use an important word. They sent a man with, or a rocket with an astronaut. An astronaut into space and made, to Ms. Swerbinsky's point, they also made, what'd you say, Ms. Swerbinsky, they made?
Well, they made this association to help them put people into space, and it's this big group of people. I can't remember what it's called. Does anybody have it written on their front page in that third box?
Let me see. I see it. That's the group. Who was it?
Oh.
Everybody?
NASA.
Thanks for helping me out, guys. Appreciate it.
And we're gonna make NASA with all capital letters. You'll learn about that next year, don't worry. So we're gonna make that in all capital letters. We're not gonna go on that today. All right. All right, boys and girls. So. What? Debbie is a word. Am I good? Yeah. Okay. All right, boys and girls, let's read back over what we've done. So, put your finger up here where I'm gonna read it, and I want you to follow along with me, okay? So, in the U.S., they launched a rocket. Next, the Soviet Union sent a satellite into orbit. Then the U.S. sent a rocket with an astronaut into space and made NASA. I love it for those of you that I heard reading with me. So what we've done, boys and girls, is we have read about the space race. While you're finishing up, we read about the space race. We then described, we told about what happened in this space race, all between the Soviet Union and all between the United States. And I promised Michael Washout I would let him say what he wanted to say if he had his next sentence right. Yes, Michael Washout.
Yesterday night did you lose power?
Yesterday night did I lose power? Does that have anything to do with what we're talking about?
No.
No, but just so you know, I didn't. Okay. All right, so while some people are finishing up, I'm going to let you guys do the first grade challenge question. Are you ready? Say I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Some people are still finishing this, but for those of you that are finished, we're going to go down to the first grade challenge question. And this question asks you to circle the correct answer in each blank. So we'll look at my sentence. It says, astronauts must wear a special blank and a special blank to travel into space safely. Now what you have to choose from is, do they wear a special hat or a helmet? You have to pick one of those and circle it. And they also wear a special suit or a special jacket. All right, this is all on your own. So I'm gonna give you, I think you only probably need about a minute and a half. I'm gonna give you a minute and a half to pick which one goes with our sentence. It says astronauts must wear a special hat or helmet and a special suit or jacket to travel into space safely. Don't tell me, circle. Don't tell me, circle. Oh, Maya had a good question. Yes, you do one from each one. So circle one of those from each one. So right here, am I gonna circle hat or helmet? And right here, am I gonna circle suit or jacket? Oh my gosh, Zoe's got her correct. So now she's just coloring some of her stuff on the front because she's got her important stuff done.
While you guys are doing that, if you haven't finished your writing from above and you need a little bit help remembering, there's that writing. You can finish that up as well. And I'm really impressed with those periods at the end of sentences, capital letters where they need to be. That's first grade work and I love it.
There you go. Hey. Hey, boys and girls, for those of you that are sitting there waiting, can you do me a favor? Can you make sure on the front where you got your pictures that you put your name on it? Can you make sure that you put your name on it? All right, you can hear my voice clap once. You can hear my voice clap 2 times. All right, so I know some of you are still finishing, and that is okay. What I want you to do right now is I want you to stand up, push your chair in, stand behind your chair, and we're going to look at this first grade challenge question. Now, when we get to the first blank, the first one said American astronauts must wear a special hat or helmet. If you put hat, I want you to stay where you are. If you put helmet, I want you to come and walk around and get on the front side of your desk. Go. So hat stays behind the desk, helmet comes on the front of the desk. Hat stays behind the desk, helmet comes on the front of the desk. All right, if you are on the front of your desk, jump up and down and clap your hands. Woo! You got it. All right, head back, head back, head back. All right, so now for our second one, stay standing up, stay standing up. All right, so now for our second one, if you put suit, you're going to come around to the front of your desk. If you put jacket, you're going to sit down in your chair. So if you put suit, you're going to come to the front, and if you put jacket, you're going to sit in your chair. So the people that are standing in front of their desk, stand up and jump up and clap your hands. All right, now I want everybody to look up front. We're going to read it together. We're going to read it together. Go. Astronauts must wear a special helmet and a special suit to travel into space safely. All right, give me a thumbs up. Great job. You guys are awesome. So now what we're going to do, Mr. Weeks, I'm gonna take these and then I'll give them back to you. But I'm gonna use them in the second part of the and I just wanna say, boys and girls, you guys have been awesome. You're an awesome class. Thank you so much for letting me come see you today.